All right, where do I even begin this? I know, judging by the title of this video, you're probably going to be wondering what exactly all of this is about. And I'm sure even after hearing everything that I'm getting ready to share with you guys, there's going to be some folks who are probably not happy about this at all. And there's also probably going to be some ammunition for some trolls to have something to talk about. But it is what it is. I felt like it was the right thing to do to share the truth, the full story about what I lied to you guys about. And I'm also hoping that I'll get a little bit of congratulations, maybe. And that might be hoping for a little too much, but for me personally, it is something that I am definitely proud to finally be able to say for real has actually happened. And what exactly all of this is about starts with this envelope right here that I just received in the mail. I think I got this late last week, and it came from the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Corrections, Probation and Parole, District 6. Folks, my wife went to the mailbox. She pulled this out. She said, "Hey, you got something from DOC." When I heard her say those words, I damn near doo-dooed on myself just a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of scared. I had no idea what was gonna be inside of this envelope, and I was thinking that it could be anything. I was thinking it might be a warrant for my arrest, a letter from DOC telling me that I've got to stop everything that I'm doing. I had no idea what to honestly expect, and when I opened this, well, it was none of that. And in fact, what it was something that I am super proud to share with you guys. And what I want to do is I want to start by reading to you the letter that was in this envelope. This letter comes from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Department of Corrections. Everything that I just said was on the envelope, and without trying to leak my address, I don't think you guys can see that very well. I've never before received anything like this in my life. What it says: Joseph Guerrero. Dear Mr. Guerrero II, on February 22, 2010, you were placed on supervised probation by Suffolk Circuit Court. When I got arrested to serve the 7 years in prison, it was through the city of Suffolk that sent me to prison. I wasn't even dealing with Suffolk. I was just simply passing through there with a whole bunch of stuff that I should not have been doing, a whole bunch of illegal things, and that's where I got pulled over, and that's where I would spend 2 years in the jail and 5 years, the remainder of my 7-year sentence, in prison because of what happened in this city. This letter is to advise you of your successful completion of supervised probation effective March 17th, 2020. Now, before we even go any further with this letter, here's where the lie comes in. I can't remember when it was. It was probably a year, maybe even, I think it was longer than a year ago, where I made a video saying that I was no longer on probation. And in fact, I think in that video I said I wasn't on supervised probation anymore, but I was now on unsupervised probation. And according to what they're saying in this letter, folks, well, I lied about that. And I know right now there's probably people thinking to themselves, Joe lied? He's admitting that he lied? We can't trust this man. What else has he lied to us about? And to be honest, those are valid questions to ask yourself. I haven't ever really lied about anything before. I mean, this, yes, I did lie about this. I lied about the fact that I was no longer on supervised probation, according to what this paper says. And I'm gonna try to validate and justify this to some degree. Maybe you'll see my side of this and maybe you won't, but I want to explain. When I made the video saying that I was no longer on probation, I had successfully completed probation. I don't remember exactly what all I said in that video, but I know there were some lies in it. You're probably wondering to yourself, why did I do that? Well, back during the time when I was on supervised probation and I had to report to a probation officer, and during this time also, AfterPrisonShow was probably at its highest point that it may very well ever be at, or ever was at. There was a lot of crazy things that were taking place. And one of those things was when I reported to probation one time, my PO said, I needed to be very careful. I didn't know what he was talking about, but he would go on to tell me that he received a phone call from the Commonwealth's office, which is the prosecutor's office. They refer to that here in the state of Virginia as the Commonwealth's attorney. He said he received a phone call from that office about me. And I'm thinking to myself, what could this possibly be about? I'm not doing anything wrong. And he said the Commonwealth told him that he had received information somebody had told on me. Somebody was basically snitching on me, trying to get me locked up again, saying that I was doing illegal tattoos. And my PO said, that the Commonwealth didn't really care about this. He said he was going to leave it in the hands of my PO. And if my PO felt the need or wanted to do so, he could have violated me behind that. But he didn't. He kind of laughed it off and just said, look, I don't care about that. That's silly. That's kind of stupid. He says, you need to be careful. So that was in part what led to the lie about me saying that I was off of probation. I felt like if I told people I was no longer on probation, well, hopefully they would believe that, and then nobody would be trying to call to get me violated for something and get me sent back to jail. Could you imagine if I had gotten locked up for that? That was part of the situation. The second part of this was, while on probation in the city of Chesapeake, my PO, very nice guy, there wasn't a whole lot that I had to do for probation. I would go in there like once every couple of months. Maybe I would take a drug test. Most of the times I didn't. I never had a dirty urine. I paid off all of my court fines, everything that I owed, got my driver's license back. I had done everything that I was supposed to do. My PO didn't want nothing to do with me anymore. And in fact, what he told me was, he said, I am going to try to get you off of probation. And I can't remember if I made the video when he told me that or if it was after that. But all I know is I ended up having another couple of months later appointment to go see this guy. And I was hopeful, and I pretty much knew that was going to be the last time I had to see this guy. I just knew I was getting ready to get released from probation. Well, when I went back to see him, he told me he's got some bad news, because it wasn't Chesapeake that I was on probation for. It was because of this city, Suffolk. But I wasn't dealing with my probation through Suffolk. I was living in Chesapeake, so therefore I was on probation in Chesapeake. He said, we as this city have sent your stuff back to Suffolk saying that, we think you've completed this, you need to be done. And Suffolk denied me. They denied me to get off of probation because they didn't know me. They didn't know anything that I was doing. They didn't know about AfterPrisonShow. They didn't know that I don't know what they knew. I don't even know how this happened. I guess it got on a docket, and a Commonwealth attorney stood up. They called the docket number. I wasn't there for this. I didn't get a chance to speak on my behalf. But it came up on a docket in a courtroom, and they said, next on the docket, a Joseph Guerrero requesting to be released early from probation, and however that conversation continued, it would end up denied. And when my PO was telling me about this, I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, what else do I possibly have to do? And in reality, what I had to do was I had to wait however many years it was. Now, when I was going to court for all of these charges in Suffolk, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, conspiracy to sell cocaine, reckless driving, resisting arrest, like there was 8 charges in total. I remember when I went to my sentencing and I got sentenced to 7 years in prison. And then like 8 years unsupervised, or 8 years of probation. On top of that, I think it was 15 years in total with 8 years suspended. It was something like that. Well, I've only been out for almost 5 years now. I feel like I'm still getting off of this kind of early now, actually having this piece of paper in my hand. And again, a piece of paper and something that I have never before done. I've been on probation in my life a total of 2 times. The first time, when I was 18 years old, I was sentenced to 3 years of probation. It took me 7 years to complete that, and the only way that I completed it was violating that probation 3 different times, getting 11 months the first time, 6 months the second time, and then 18 months the third time. I did that 3 years of probation, locked up 3 different times. So I didn't successfully complete it. I just served the time that was over my head. This is the first time I have ever successfully completed probation. And though I know it's kind of bad, and probably really bad, that I lied to you guys about this, and I hope you guys can understand my reasoning for doing that, I'm proud of myself for this. And attached to this letter that goes on to say, you will remain on good behavior until October 13th, 2023. I think that's the 8-year mark right there, 2023. Please note that the Suffolk Circuit Courts can file judgment against you for failure to pay any outstanding balances you owe the courts. I owe none. And then it says attached, the letter explains the procedure for restoring your civil rights. Folks, all this paper tells me is that I can go try to vote again. I'm not interested in that. I want all my rights back. I want to be able to leave the country. And even more crazy, I wonder if I can get my gun rights back. It says on this piece of paper, I want to share this. It says more about the restoration of rights. The restoration of civil rights does not restore the right to possess a firearm, will not expunge or remove your criminal convictions. It's not a pardon. And restoration of rights is only necessary following convictions of felonies, misdemeanor convictions, and juvenile convictions does not result in the loss of civil rights. A person who has been convicted of a felony must first have his rights restored in order to petition for a pardon. And then to regain state firearm privileges, a convicted felon must apply to the circuit courts of his or her jurisdiction of residence for a permit to possess or carry a firearm. I am going to do that. And you're probably wondering yourself, Joe, what do you need a gun for? It's not even a guarantee that I could get one. But I'd like to know whether or not I could legally own one. I have done what I needed to do. And I also don't know if that possession of a firearm by a convicted felon charge is going to, stand in the way of that. What I am going to do is I'm going to petition the courts after I restore my rights, because it says I have to do that first. I'm going to petition the courts and I'm going to go and shoot my shot. That's probably the worst way that I could word that right there. I'm going to go try my hand and see if it's possible. I only know of like 2 people who have not only completed probation, but have gotten their rights restored after prison. I wonder if I could do it. But all of that being mentioned gets us way off point. Folks, I lied. I'm sorry that I lied. I'd like to believe that I did so for good reason. I didn't want anybody trying to get me in any trouble that I didn't need to be in. And also, in the video that I lied in, I said I was no longer on supervised probation. Well, this letter says effective May something, I think the 13th, I'm no longer on supervised probation. I didn't even really think that I lied for real, until this morning. And the reason for that is because after my PO tried to send my information back to Suffolk to get me off of probation, and they denied that, Chesapeake had nothing else to do with me. They didn't want me to come there. I was a waste of their time, probably money, I don't know, resources. So what they did was they put me on something else. And I thought that this was unsupervised probation for real. It was a thing called Shadow Track. Now, for those of you who don't know what Shadow Track is, it's a monthly phone probation. You got to call in once a month on your birthday, yesterday, or on the day of your birthday, like whatever day your birthday falls on. My birthday falls on the 20th. So on the 20th of every month, I would have to call in. And sometimes I would forget. And if I forgot, by like noon, or maybe even like 8 o'clock, I think one time at 8 o'clock at night, I got a call from this thing because I forgot to call. And when they call you, you've got to either recite numbers 1 through 9, speak your birthday, or speak your phone number. And then you answer like 5 or a few more questions by pressing 1 for yes and 2 for no. Now, I was on this thing for over a year. And it damn sure felt like unsupervised probation to me. I never had to go report and see nobody, never got called in for a drug test, but I did have to request permission to be able to travel, so that probably really falls into the supervised part of this. And again, I truly thought that it was unsupervised probation. I didn't have a PO that I was reporting to. And I want to share with you a crazy story real quick about dealing with this Shadow Track thing. And also, before I do that, let me say this. It might seem like, oh yeah, man, Shadow Track sounds great. You don't have to report to nobody. They're not doing any drug tests. I don't know if they ever have or if they do. I don't know what happens if you answer one particular question that says, have you consumed any illegal substances in the last 30 days? Press 1 for yes. Press 2 for no. I wonder if you press 1 for yes, what happens next? I never did that. But this one time, I had to get permission to travel. We were going to Reno. And on the day that we were traveling to Reno, it was on the 20th. I'd already gotten permission to travel. And I remember we were in Denver Airport going to Reno. And I was trying to call this Shadow Track to check in. And folks, I am walking through the airport when this thing picks up and asks me to recite the numbers 1 through 9. And can you imagine walking through an airport like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got a bomb! Is what I felt like was going to happen to me, but it didn't. Thank God. Because that would have been pretty crazy. One of the main differences between the shadow track and the regular probation, for me personally, was the fact that as soon as they sign you up for this thing, you got to sign a piece of paper. You got to give them consent to be able to track your phone. If you ever felt like the feds was listening while you're on your phone, well, on shadow track, they probably really are, because they are tracking your every movement. And that was kind of a sketchy thing. You know, there were times when we had to go out of state, going to Elizabeth City, a couple of times, for moving jobs, going to DC for the Chamber of Commerce event that we got invited to, where I didn't have enough time to get those approved, to request that permission to travel. When we went to DC, I left my phone at the house for 8 hours. Y'all ever been away from your phone for 8 hours? That ain't an easy thing to do. When we went to Elizabeth City, I think by that point I had learned, oh, and also while in Reno, you know, they're tracking your phone. You can't leave the state unless you've got permission. I went to California. It was just like literally an hour's drive. We went and checked out a ski resort. We didn't even go skiing. We were just seeing this really nice place. The trip to California from Reno was the first time that I had crossed state lines knowing that they were tracking my phone. And also the most scared that I was about to violate my probation. I don't even know if it's possible to violate with shadow track. But I snitch on myself and I tell you those things because I would later learn that if you were ever traveling out of the state, like for work, and in all of these cases, I mean, these were basically for work, except for the California thing. That was completely pleasure. I was coming back the same day, and I learned that if you were traveling out of state for work or whatever, if you're just traveling out of state and coming back in the same day, you didn't have to request permission to travel. But before I knew that, you know, it was definitely a nerve-wracking thing. And on regular probation, I'm not necessarily sure that they track your phone. If anybody knows anything about that, please comment down below, because I'd like to know. The 2 times that I was on probation, I don't ever remember them telling me anything about tracking my phone, but that doesn't mean that they weren't doing it. And again, like I said, it wasn't until this morning that I really realized that I lied. We were doing the Bobo, and people were telling me, Joe, shadow track is supervised probation. Well, I had to look it up, and it says something about a supervising officer. So I guess maybe it is supervised probation. So I was still on it, even though I didn't think that I was, and it didn't really feel like I was. Now also, one final thing that I want to mention before I wrap this up. I got this letter in the mail last week. The post date on it is April the 13th. They wrote this letter saying effective March the 13th, I was done with supervised probation. I'm now on good behavior. Is that unsupervised probation? Even I'm confused thinking about this. Maybe I can't get my gun rights back, but they're telling me I can get my rights restored. So I truly feel like I'm done. I mean, I am done, right? But when I got this piece of paper, this was before the 20th of the month. And again, on the 20th of every month, I've got to call this shadow track thing. Yesterday was the 20th. I talked about it on the Bobo saying I ain't even calling this thing. I'm bucking. Catch me if you can, like the gingerbread man. I got this piece of paper that says I'm done. Well, I was lying about that too. I'm not really built like that, so I would end up calling. And when I called, you know, it didn't ask me to recite numbers 1 through 9, my birthday, my phone number. I'm going to call this on this video so you guys can hear exactly what it said to me. And I hope it doesn't say anything different, because that's going to defeat the whole purpose of this. All right, we're calling it.
Please enter your user ID, followed by the pound key. Por favor, ingrese su nombre de usuario, seguido por la tecla numeral.
I know you probably couldn't really understand what it was saying right there, but it says, please enter your user ID. I ain't never had no user ID. Now, if I got a user ID and I just don't know that I got one, well, I'm probably in some trouble, because I was supposed to call this yesterday. But this is a totally different message than any message that I got for the over a year that I was on this thing. So what I like to believe is that I'm done. I mean, I'm hoping that's what this means. Somebody else would bring it to my attention saying, Joe, if they called you telling you or reminding you that you need to call them, because on your day to call, if you forget, or most of the times, I would get a call from them by like noon. The latest I ever got a call from them was 8 o'clock at night, but I always got a call saying, hey, you need to call us. Well, I didn't get that call yesterday. So that's another thing that makes me feel like I am truly done with shadow track, whether that is unsupervised or supervised probation. I'm pretty sure we've talked about that already. It's got to be supervised, right? I share that with you guys because this is what I think is kind of crazy, and maybe you guys won't think so, but, you know, nobody ever called me. I didn't get no message from them. You know, they text me sometimes whether, you know, I'm getting permission to travel, saying approved. Nobody texted me or nobody called me saying, hey, congratulations, you're done. You did it. You're off. You're free. You can go get them rights back. Go try to get that gun. Yeah, nobody called me. And now I'm kind of left with this big question mark like, am I really done? I mean, I got the paper saying that I'm done with probation, and I'm calling and getting a totally different message. So I guess what they probably think is, you know, they'll figure it out for themselves. But if they figure it out the wrong way, your ass is going to get violated. Hopefully I figured this thing out the right way. I wanted to share this video with you guys because I know the title alone is going to have people having a lot of crazy ideas and thoughts about me, my credibility, and I hope that's not so much the case. But if it is, I got to understand that. The biggest reason why I wanted to share this with you guys is because, like I said, I've never completed probation before in my life. You know, when I got that piece of paper, the first thing I did was text my dad. I sent him a screenshot of it. And I mean, I was proud, and he was proud of me, and that was an awesome thing. I'm very proud of myself. I hope you guys will be proud of me as well. I hope you won't hate me for this lie that I told. There was a little bit of confusion on my part, and then there was also some reasoning for the lie as well. So even if you are mad, I hope you'll understand to some degree my justification for doing so. And as I wrap this up, I want to say one final thing. You know, getting completely done with all of this is kind of just a smidgen amount scary. Because the last time that I completed probation, even though I didn't complete it the right way, I was getting released from prison the very first time after serving 18 months. I had to go check in with the probation office 72 hours after my release, or you have to do it within 72 hours. And I went there and they told me that I was done. I didn't have to come back no more. And from there I went completely downhill. The leash was off and Joe was running amok. I like to believe this time will be a lot different, and I won't do that because I do have a hell of a lot more to lose compared to back then where I didn't have anything. But I will say this is a major accomplishment and weight off of my shoulders. I can now travel when I want to travel, even though we can't travel anywhere right now. I could potentially get all sorts of rights restored. Can you imagine we do a video going to vote? I don't tell you who I'm voting for, but I come out and it's clearly evident who I voted for. That would probably be a horrendous video. What else can I do now? Possibly travel outside of the country, get a passport, serve on a jury? Oh, that would be a hell of a video. Joe's on jury duty. I really want to hear what all of you guys think about all of this, and I'll wrap it up on that note. Hoping that you'll leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you think. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world, never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!